Real quick before we get into today's video, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon for all their support, because without their help, the upgraded content that you see on the channel, that you really see in the video essays and a few of the lore discussions, would not be possible without their help. Obviously, the YouTube membership filler arc is still ongoing, but I can say over on the Patreon that you get sneak peeks of videos months in advance. Patrons also get priority on the Q&As. Every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and I give away a lot of good goodies in that. And it's also just really cool to talk to you guys in the DMs, and if some of you guys have theories that you want me to talk about on the channel, obviously I will talk about your theories. Just send them to me over on the Patreon. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a review for Boruto episode 225. And now that episode 225 is done and in the books, man, do we got a lot to talk about here. And I know that there's a lot to talk about because I've read some of the comments I've seen on Verve and on Crunchyroll. I read some of the comments I've seen on Twitter, and especially in my DMs, I've gotten a lot of comments. So there's going to be elements of the fight that we're going to have to go over. I think that in some cases, there are some refreshers that need to be had here in terms of some of the abilities that we use, but we'll get to that as we get into the review. But I have to say, first and foremost, for this episode, we got a definite upgrade of what we had last week. We had people say that last week's episode was the worst one in the franchise, and so you had nowhere to go except for up when it comes to this episode. And I thought whoever handled the script for this episode, I thought that they got the perfect balance of internal conflict versus external conflict, and making the two relate. And I also thought that the person that wrote the script showed a true understanding of how not only the jutsu that were used in this episode work, but also how basic chakra works. And we saw themes, especially in the character Sarada, that go right back to the fundamentals of how chakra works and how things like a mental nerf have a huge impact on your fighting ability and diminishes your fighting spirit. I think a lot of times people forget when it comes to chakra, chakra is a combination of your physical strength as well as your spiritual energy, and with spiritual energy that comes from meditation, that comes from your mental mind state, your emotions, studying, etc. Well, one of the things on this is early on in the fight, Sarada has a bit of a mental nerf herself, and I thought that they did a good job of playing up that mental nerf where she's clearly toying with Chocho and playing around with her, and then having Sarada gradually get over that nerf even after she tells Chocho that she's going to stop holding back. There are still signs that there was a little bit of a blockage there until the very end. Now, the other thing that we also have to look at with this episode is how Shinki just kind of showed you, like, this dude's still on a different level. The way that he just absolutely dogs out Kawaki was completely brilliant right here. And I like how Shinki's like, I can make you watch this fight by force, or you can go in by yourself. And then he just dogs out Kawaki and says, you ain't worth my time, and walks away. But he does say that Kawaki was a bit impressive. So going back to the Sarada versus Chocho fight, I thought it was cool how they open up the episode, they're throwing the shuriken at each other, and then Sarada's blocking everything with her kunai, and then you see Chocho use the expansion jutsu. And going into the episode, one of the things that I said was that I was going to call cap if I didn't see two things from Chocho in this episode as she's fighting Sarada. And I'm glad that the two things I'm about to bring up, we saw this in the episode, and we also saw that Sarada was in control of this fight from start to finish. And the two things I need to see was Chocho using the expansion jutsu in a creative way, and I need to see her use the butterfly mode. And with the expansion jutsu, you have the obvious moments where she's enlarging both of her fists and she's trying to land those attacks on Sarada. As a reminder, the expansion jutsu gives you a huge boost in physical strength because the Akimichi clan, they convert all those calories over into chakra. That's why they eat so much. The idea of Chocho using Yang release to punch through lightning release jutsu, I thought that that was believable. And I also like how in this episode, one of the things they did was that she also utilized the expansion jutsu in some creative formats. So there are some times where they're going in hand-to-hand combat where if you pay very close attention, Chocho at the last minute was expanding her fist. So she was trying to catch Sarada off guard by first using a deception maneuver where she's fighting with her normal fist and kicks, and then at the last second she's expanding her fist trying to nail Sarada at point blank range with an expansion jutsu. And I like how essentially each time that she tried that, Sarada dodged those attacks easily. And I think that we all can agree that that is something that should have happened. Now, the other thing I need to see that I said I was going to call cap if I did not see was Chocho use the butterfly mode. And I think people really underestimate the butterfly mode. I think a lot of people, just based on the comments I've seen, forget that Chocho using the butterfly mode without all of those 3 colored pills that the Akimichi clan has, that's absolutely huge. Butterfly mode gives you a 100 times boost to your physical stats. I thought that Sarada, if Chocho was going to fight her, Chocho needed to use that butterfly mode. And I like how they pay off all 5 of those episodes where we see Chocho training to use butterfly mode. Granted, it's for very vain reasons. It's, oh, I want to be skinny, that way people think I'm more attractive, and oh, I can go into butterfly mode at will now. I can maintain it, but I can't maintain the physical attribute increase I get with this. But Anko Sensei's in trouble, and I really want to eat this super sweet bean jam. Very vain reasons that you would expect from a teenage girl who's obsessed with food. And so I said going into this fight, we needed to see her use butterfly mode. And I thought that she was going to show mastery of it by fighting for a prolonged period of time in it. However, she had already expended quite a bit of chakra by using the expansion jutsu several times over and spamming the human boulder jutsu. So when it got to this point, that was kind of believable. However, that 100 times boost in your physical strength, that was the only way you were going to be able to explain Sarada using a Chidori and Chocho being able to go up against Sarada when she uses Chidori and not get killed. So I did like seeing that element there. Now, there's one other aspect to this fight that I absolutely love. So just as you saw Chocho utilizing different aspects of her clan's abilities, I like how with Sarada, you see a progression with the character. So the very first thing that we see is that as they start fighting, Sarada's just playing around with her, and then she quickly gets the upper hand, and she really could have ended that fight right before things got serious. So when Sarada is dodging all those attacks that Chocho has, and Sarada lands on top of the wall, and she first uses a smaller lightning release jutsu, and she starts shooting all those lightning release bullets out at Chocho. The first one was a warning shot. The second one, Sarada is like, okay, what will you do with the second one? That's kind of like Sarada's what will you do with the second meteor moment, where you remember how Madara just dropped the second meteor on the Alliance? Sarada, the next time she uses that lightning release jutsu and she has all those floating orbs, she don't have 3 or 4 like she did last time. She just covers the entire wall with those floating orbs. And I thought that that was hilarious right there. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, she's going to take her out right here. Like, this fight is over. Somebody called the ambulance. This one is over right here. And that's the only knock I have on Sarada. And that goes back to the whole thing of the mental nerf. Right when she could have won the fight, and you see the true difference between Sarada and Chocho, right when that becomes apparent, she just shuts down. And this is very similar to how Minato, when he was in the KCM form, Minato had speed blitz and had slashed Obito and really and truly could have lopped this dude's head off. But as soon as he got close enough to him and he realized that, oh my God, this is Obito, Minato suffered a huge nerf right then and there. And another example is how Sasuke versus Boruto Shiki happened. Sasuke, even though he was running low on chakra, Sasuke admits when he talks to Naruto that he was not able to bring himself to strike down Boruto. That goes back to the mental nerf, which also goes back to my earlier point. Chakra is a combination of your physical energy as well as your spiritual energy, and part of your spiritual energy is your mental mind state. And that's the only thing right there I really wish Sarada would have pushed forward. However, I get the narrative intent behind it. Going into this episode, I was really worried that we were going to get like a Sakura versus Ino type thing where it was more so driven by the character emotions and the fight was a little anticlimactic because of the thematic choice that Masashi Kishimoto used in the Naruto manga for that. I'm glad that this wasn't the case, and I do like that we got to see both of the characters utilize their skills, but I cannot stress how much Chocho was impressive here. Now, I know a lot of people hate the character Chocho, and that's a whole nother video in of itself why Western fans dislike her character, but like I've said numerous times, character likability has nothing to do with that character's ability and power and skill. And when you look at what Chocho is doing in this episode, the fact that she is going into her butterfly mode without the assistance of those Akimichi clan pills, she's going into butterfly mode with the wings and everything, and she's utilizing the destructive power and getting that full 100 times boost in terms of her stats. To put this into perspective, her own father was not able to fully utilize that form without assistance until the 4th Great Ninja War. Chocho's doing what Shoji did at 17. Chocho's doing it at the age of 13. That is absolutely huge. Again, character likability has nothing to do with that character's stats. That has nothing to do with the character's power. And if you say that she didn't work towards it, just because you skipped those quote unquote filler episodes, does not mean that there was not any training that took place. That's a common complaint that I've seen people saying how she able to use butterfly mode as effectively as she did. But getting back to the Sarada aspect, I thought that her mental nerf was handled very well. I thought it was very subtle, but just obvious enough. A little bit more obvious than Sasuke's nerf when he was fighting against Boruto Shiki. And what was also very interesting about this is that everything was really building up like a crescendo, and everything just explodes when they have the whole Chidori versus Super Chocho moment. I thought that that was very well done. Again, seeing Sarada as the fight's progressing, get the spiritual energy side of her chakra rebalance. I thought that that was very well done. This is good internal conflict manifesting as an external conflict is taking place. And I thought that the timing of the flashbacks was very important and very key here in order to give us a proper payoff. I think that this is what was missing from last week's episode. And I think that another way that this works is we get the full version of the flashback that Sarada has with the conversation that she had with Sasuke, where Sasuke directly asked her, if you're really prepared for being a shinobi, you're gonna have to make tough decisions. If the moment arose and you had to kill Boruto, could you go through with it? And I like how we get the opportunity to see Sarada's reaction to it and how she's going through all of her emotions and how she comes to a realization that she promised herself that she'll be able to strike down Boruto if that moment ever came. And you see right here how she's connecting that to her battle with Chocho, and that's where we start the process of her spiritual energy being realigned inside of her chakra. And I really thought that this crescendo really worked in this scenario because you see her peak resolve when she's using that Chidori, and that's very symbolic right there because you can see how in that moment Sarada's resolve is at her strongest. She's using her strongest jutsu, obviously not with killing intent, but that's almost backdoor foreshadowing for a future scenario where she might have to make a decision on Boruto to try and kill Boruto. And if that moment ever arises, she's going to have to use that jutsu. However, if she can't use Chidori against Chocho, how can she ever hope to use that against Boruto? So I thought that that was a nice touch right there. Again, it's a crescendo building on the internal conflict that Sarada has, and you have it manifest against the external conflict right here. This is good storytelling. This is good writing right here, but only from a craft perspective. Whoever wrote the script for this episode, they made a lot of craft-based choices that I really think work when you break it down like this. The other side of it too is that as the whole fight's going on, Sasuke's just watching the fight and Sasuke's like, that's my little peanut. I love that. Like, if you would have told me in 2005 that Sasuke would have a daughter and he would be watching her at the tuning exams, I say you were lying. I love that part of the episode. Now, part of the reason why that hits so hard is Sasuke's basically watching as his daughter's understanding the lesson he was trying to teach her when he said that he was always prepared. And when she admits that there are elements to being a shinobi that are harder than what she expected, I love it. And if you've been following the Sasuke Shinden, the teacher star pupil novel that I've been covering here on the channel, you see how this ties directly into some of Sasuke's expectations for Sarada, and how there are parts of Sarada's mind state that Sasuke was trying to shape in that novel. And you're seeing her mentally start to take those steps that Sasuke wanted her to take in order to reach that next level. And there's also a greater manga tie-in to the fact that Sarada won the match, so Sarada should get that Chunin promotion, because in Boruto chapter 58, Sarada is directly called a team captain. A lot of people thought that that was just the manga acknowledging what happened with Team 7 against Boro, but one thing I've been saying is that the way Sarada was behaving and acting in more so of a formal manner, calling the shots and saying, don't forget that I'm the team captain. A Chunin is called a captain. A Chunin can lead Ganin on missions. A Chunin can also lead a squad of other Chunin as well. And all of this makes sense for why she was behaving in the manner she was, and why she took the lead on those training exercises, and why Konohamaru was off in the background with Naruto. So to the people saying this Chunin exams filler arc has no place, again, Boruto's anime doesn't have filler. If you're saying this in 2021, it's willful ignorance. And that's not my headcanon, that's not my words. That's directly from the mangaka for the Boruto manga, Mikio Ikimoto. When it comes to the whole Chocho thing and she starts breaking down crying about how she isn't going to be able to keep her promise that all the members of Team 10, or at least she and Shikadai, are going to be able to wear the Chunin exam vest. I get it, that's great character development. I personally don't care for the members of Team 10, but I can acknowledge, because I'm mature enough to acknowledge when that is a nice payoff of what you get right there. So moving on to the whole Boruto and Mitsuki thing, I did think it was interesting that Amato, it really feels like Amato was being set up by Shikamaru, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I believe that this is the case. I find it interesting that shinobi from another country are coming to Amato trying to bribe him to come work for them, and they give him this sob story about the nation needing his ninja tech and how it can boost their abilities. In my opinion, that smells of a trap meant to test his loyalties, but I could be mistaken. They could be legitimately ninja that just happen to be inside of Konoha, and they just happen to know that Amato is a scientist with incredible ninja tech. Feels too convenient to me. But I did think it was funny how after Boruto saves Amato, right before Amato was about to escape himself, we get that humorous scene where Amato's like, hey, Chunin exams, don't you need to be there? And Boruto's like, oh crap, I gotta get back to the examination site. I stand by what I said a few weeks ago. I don't think that Boruto and Mitsuki are going to make it. I think that they're going to get disqualified. But overall, this was a very, very fun episode to watch right here. So my question to you guys is, do you think that this episode pays off enough of Chocho going through all of those training episodes to be able to use the butterfly mode at full power? What do you think about the scriptwriter for this episode placing a mental nerf on Sarada? Do you guys think that that made sense? I personally did. Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.